Varmt välkomna. Nu ska vi lyssna på Ascelia Pharma och Magnus Corfitzen som ska presentera bolaget här.
Ja.
Kör hårt.
Tack Ludvig. Great to be here. Is it okay? Yeah, good. So great to be here. I'm looking forward to presenting Ascelia Pharma, our progress towards becoming a commercial stage company. So I'll do the presentation, I'll give you the business highlights, and then we'll have the Q&A session as with the other companies. And if there's one thing that you need to take away, it's that this year we have important inflection points. We'll be getting the headline result from our pivotal phase 3 clinical trial during the middle of this year. We're on track for delivering that result. We have very strong phase 2 data. We have shown that Orviglance is superior to unenhanced in phase 2 studies. We need to do that in a larger phase 3 study. So we are very optimistic about a positive outcome. If the data is positive, we believe we have the sufficient data to file for regulatory approval. This is an $800 million market where we will have the first-in-class drug, the only product targeting this opportunity. In addition, we have Encore, which is a therapeutic for solid tumors, and we have a business model to build further strategic upside going forward. So very exciting times for us. So I will be making forward-looking statements. So Ascelia Pharma is dedicated to improving the life of people living with cancer by offering better treatment options. And we do that by developing novel, differentiated drugs. And our business model is to acquire or in-license new molecules, build you could say, address the unmet medical needs, do an efficient development and regulatory process, and then monetize the asset either through commercialization ourselves, or with partners. We have 2 products in clinical development. I'll talk mostly about Orviglance today, which is about to complete phase 3. Enrollment is completed, and we have orphan drug designation from the FDA. We also have Encore ready for phase 2. We are in the main market here in Stockholm, based in Malmö, and we have an office in the US. So first with Orviglance. First of all, I'd like to talk a little bit about the problem that we are addressing. In cancer care, liver metastasis is a major issue. That is when cancer starts in an organ and spreads to the liver. A lot of the very common cancer types spread to the liver, and very often the liver is the first organ of metastasis, and it's very often also the cause of death. That is why liver imaging is very important across cancer care, doing regular imaging procedures to assess the cancer burden in the liver. The best way to look for cancer in the liver is through MRI. And to get the best MRI image quality, you need an imaging drug or contrast agent. So today, patients undergoing an MRI, a liver MRI to look for cancer, they will get an injection with a gadolinium-based contrast agent. So gadolinium is a toxic heavy metal. It's really not something you would like to have in your body. It's chelated, so it's bound in a chemical structure to minimize the toxicity. In most patients, that works well. But in patients with severe renal disease, it can cause a fatal side effect called nephrogenic systemic fibrosis. There's no cure, and as a result, all gadolinium products, all the products available on the market today has a black box warning, a regulatory warning saying this is not a good product for this population. Orviglance addresses this issue. Orviglance is based on manganese, which is not gadolinium. It's a natural trace element. We all have manganese in our bodies in small amounts, so it's something that the body knows. It's also very efficient for enhancing the MRI signal, and Orviglance aims to be the leading product for liver MRI in patients with severe renal disease, for which there are really no good options today. So to support this, we have done an extensive clinical program. We've completed and reported on 8 clinical studies. Study number 9, which is the pivotal phase 3 study, has been fully enrolled, and we get on track for delivering the headline result in the middle of the year. In all these studies, we have consistently proven that Orviglance improves the imaging compared to the unenhanced, which is basically the patient going to the scanner without an imaging agent. So here's one example. So you can see to the far left, there's a T1 image of the liver, and it's illustrated with the white ring here, where there's a lesion, where there's a metastasis. And what we need to measure and prove in the phase 3 is the superiority of Orviglance versus the unenhanced. This will be done by 3 radiologists, and they basically need to see, is the liver or is the metastasis more clearly defined and more visible with Orviglance than in the unenhanced. And this we have proven in a number of studies in various ways, but importantly, we have proven that in one of the phase 2 studies where we have done the exact same reader setup. So in this study, in the same way, same endpoint, in 20 patients, we proved that Orviglance is superior to unenhanced. We need to repeat that in the 85 patient study. So we hope to, during the middle of the year when we have the data, to change the question marks to exclamation marks. Yes, we did meet the primary endpoint. We don't know the result, but we're very optimistic based on the strong data package that we have from all the other studies. So the question becomes, once we have the data from phase 3, we believe we have sufficient data for obtaining regulatory approval. What about the market? It's a very attractive commercial opportunity. It's an $800 million market. Almost half of that is in the US. And there is really no good option for these patients today. Based on our extensive market research and launch preparations, we know that more than 60% of these patients today get an unenhanced MR. And the image quality of an unenhanced MR is not good compared to an enhanced MR. That is well accepted by everyone. And that gives us a very strong positioning, something that radiologists and other doctors understand. Because the density, and I'll come to that in a couple of slides, the density of these patients, because they have renal disease, they have cancer, they are referred to the larger medical institutions. It's a very, you could say, condensated market, which means that we can get the value and retain the value and build the value in Ascelia with our own Ascelia team in the US. In other geographies, we will partner and share the upside with a partner. So, as mentioned, this severe renal disease and gadolinium is not a good combination. That is widely accepted in the medical community, the radiology community, oncology, nephrology, everywhere. So more than 90% support this issue. And those that have seen a case of nephrogenic systemic fibrosis, even though it's rare, they do not forget. And this is the $800 million market that we are addressing with and we have the orphan designation and we are getting data on this. So there are some other concerns with gadolinium that are evolving. One is that even patients with perfectly healthy kidneys and are efficient in sort of getting rid of the gadolinium quickly, all of them will retain some of the gadolinium in the body, most notably in bone and in skin, but also in other organs, including the brain. And right now, the long-term impact of that is really not well known. The data, there are lots of questions, but not enough data. So the American College of Radiology, the Association of the Radiologists in the US, have a classification system known as SAGE, where they're measuring the impact of gadolinium here. There also, FDA has asked the manufacturers of gadolinium to do long-term outcome studies, which are very difficult to do, but they are ongoing to understand whether we can answer some of those questions about retaining gadolinium. Another issue is that as most of the gadolinium is excreted from the body, it goes with the urine into the sewage system. The way our sewage system works is that then we clean the sewage water and that is recycled into drinking water. The problem is that every year tons of gadolinium are actually used in medical imaging procedures, which then goes into our drinking water supply. A long list of publications demonstrate that over the last few decades when we've been using gadolinium, the gadolinium levels in drinking water is increasing. That is not sustainable. So right now, we are not at levels where it is a serious concern, but over time, it's not sustainable to continue to increase gadolinium in drinking water. So, for a long time, this has not really been an issue that people have been discussing, and certainly not the industry. What we see now is recent changes. So the gadolinium manufacturers are developing gadolinium products with lower dose. It will potentially reduce some of the issues, but it will not make them go away. What is interesting is that GE Healthcare has started development. They have completed a phase 1, so very early in development, of a manganese agent. Full body, which is kind of sort of an injection, so it will be complementary to ours. But it's a testament to the fact that we need to do something else on gadolinium. Orviglance is the only late-stage alternative to gadolinium in this space. So first we go for the patients with severe renal disease. That's the $800 million market, and then we need to see how things develop from there. So very exciting opportunity here. So just to round off on the Orviglance is really, I said we want to go ourselves in the US. And the reason is that these patients go to the larger hospitals. Actually, 400 clinical accounts in the US have 75% of the market. The 400 accounts we can reach with a field team of 40 people. So that is financially and operationally feasible. And there we can retain half the global market opportunity here. So switching gears a little bit, our other compound is Encore, which is an oral that's going to be the first oral irinotecan agent. So today, irinotecan is used widely in several cancer forms like colorectal cancer and pancreatic cancer. It's given as an infusion every third week. And in the first days after the infusion, the patient will have quite significant side effects. After a few days, the amount of irinotecan in the body will be significantly reduced, and the patient will feel better. What we want to do with Encore is to give the patient irinotecan every day, but in much lower doses. We believe that will improve the safety. That's supported by our phase 1 studies. We also believe that it will actually drive potentially efficacy. That's what we need to prove in the phase 2 and phase 3 studies. So we are planning a phase 2 clinical study for the treatment of gastric cancer. We want to test irinotecan together with Lonsurf. Lonsurf is a tablet therapy for treating gastric cancer. It's on the market today. We want to see whether the combination of Lonsurf and Encore is better than Lonsurf alone. So we have, the IND has been approved. We have a clinical collaboration with Taiho Oncology, which is part of Otsuka Pharmaceuticals. They will sort of support with Lonsurf product and advice. And then we will, you could say, when we are ready to start the study, we have, you could say, postponed the enrollment because we wanted to get all the patients and finalize the phase 3 study for Sparkle, for Orviglance first. So very exciting opportunity, and even opportunities beyond gastric cancer. There are many tumor types where Encore seems to have a potential effect. So just to finalize here, where we are now, we are with Orviglance. It's first-in-class product, orphan drug designation, addressing a global opportunity of $800 million. We completed enrollment earlier this year. We're on track for delivering headline results during the middle of the year. And our pre-launch activities, which means working with the key opinion leaders, engaging with the payers and everybody else who are needed to make this a very successful launch, that's on track. Furthermore, we have Encore, which has potential for creating further value. So thank you. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Yeah, thank you, Magnus, for a very nice presentation. I was thinking about this phase 3 trial. Obviously, it's the key event this year for you.
Yeah.
What date are you planning to communicate in this readout? And what would you consider a positive outcome? Do you believe there is any gray zone scenario, or is it very binary?
Yeah, I think in clinical trials, there's always, you could say, the customary statistical significance threshold defined in the protocol, which usually is P, for a two-sided test, P 0.05. In the 20 patients, we had 0.009, so a lot of numbers here, but we had good margin in terms of meeting that endpoint. In a larger patient population, you typically have the opportunity to potentially to have a even lower p-value. So we will report on the primary endpoint that we have also discussed with the regulatory agencies in terms of lesion visualization. And we will also make a statement on the safety that will be assessed. So the headline results will be primary endpoint and safety.
Right.
And then later we will have the secondary endpoint, but they're not available
at the time of the
yeah.
top line results. Yeah. So the FDA has agreed that you have lowered your number of subjects in this trial, which is great that you have that the FDA said this. But do you see any risks that the initial commercial uptake of the drug will be slower, so to say? Do you see a risk that physicians want to see more data or so on?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to tell. I mean, I think it's what we need to show is compelling efficacy. And that is, we believe, very optimistic we can demonstrate that with 85 patients. We have almost 300 patients in our database, so it's for an orphan drug, it's a sizable data pool, and it's not you could say a huge leap of faith when you have that data for a radiologist for this very fragile patient to say this is probably a lot better than giving you this gadolinium with the black box warning. So that is also why we are quite active on the pre-launch side, engaging with the radiologists and other medical specialties such as nephrologists and others to understand what is it they want to see, so that we make sure that they get all the information so we can answer all their questions and question marks, so that they will say this is really in principle obvious that we should use this for this patient population. But I think it's well known that manganese enters the healthy hepatocytes, the healthy liver cells. And the images are what we hear, very high quality from the investigators who were participating in the phase 3 study, and they see it as, you could say, comparable to liver-specific gadolinium agents in terms of image quality. So, which is really good. So the learning curve for them to start using it is pretty flat.
Yeah, interesting. And you're obviously commercializing yourself in the US, as you said. What is the current status of this team right now? What are they doing? What is the key work at the moment?
Yeah, so we have built the companies in Malmö. We built a very experienced team in the team in Ascelia today. There are more than 20 global or US product launches in our collective experience. And we are leading, you could say, the key activities from here. We're working a lot with people in the US. We spent quite some time going there, meeting them face to face. But you could say, once we have the data and as we get closer to launch, we will start building the team in the US, the commercial team. But we want to make sure that we do things in the right order, that we also, you could say, conscious of making investments at the right time, so we're not overspending too early, which will be very costly for us.
Right, but yeah, exactly. The work starts much earlier than most investors think, maybe.
Yeah, I think, and you could say we've had market access and medical affairs people, very experienced people, leading the work, for a year and a half, 2 years, right? So this is a long process. It's engaging with the medical community and making them excited about it. So obviously, it's very different when you have medicine, because it's regulated in a completely different way. But you could say, from my perspective, the aspiration and is like, you could say, Steve Jobs, the hype they did on the iPhone, I think is a good example. We'll try to do it in a very different way, because it's a pharmaceutical, but building the awareness about a new product that is coming to solve an unmet medical need is important.
Yeah. And lastly, it's not uncommon that you get a priority review when it's like orphan diseases and very great medical need. Is this something that you expect? Have the regulatory agencies given any sort of hint?
Yeah, no, so the regulatory agencies will not provide, you could say, a hint. It's our decision whether we want to apply for it. And we have not made a decision yet. What we want to make sure is, as we progress and get further along in the process, we will see in our pre-launch activities, how far are we, when are we, you could say, when would we actually like to launch? And if that timeline is consistent with a fast track priority review, then we'll go for that. If we think we need to work, we'll get an even better launch uptake if we can have a few more months, then that may be the right decision. We don't know at this point.
Right.
But we want to make sure that as much as possible, the doctors are ready to start using Orviglance, that the payers are ready to start reimbursing as soon as possible afterwards. So that work is ongoing and increasing in intensity.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Magnus.
Yeah, thank you.